HOA neighbor illegally poured concrete on my land. Too bad I'm not in their fake HOA. What would you do if you woke up to find your neighbor had poured a concrete slab over your property line, claiming their HOA gave them the right? That's exactly what happened to Sarah Nguyen, a fiercely independent homeowner who thought she'd escape the clutches of meddling HOAs by buying a house just outside their jurisdiction. Her peaceful life on the edge of Willow Creek Estates was turned upside down when Karen, the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood HOA, decided Sarah's land was fair game for her grand landscaping plans. What followed was a battle of wills, a clash of principles, and a lesson in boundaries that Karen would never forget. Sarah had chosen her modest, 2-acre lot on the outskirts of Willow Creek for its freedom. The subdivision next door, with its cookie-cutter homes and rigid HOA rules, was everything she wanted to avoid. She'd heard horror stories from her friend, Mike, who lived inside the HOA's domain, tales of fines for unapproved mailboxes, banned garden gnomes, and endless meetings about lawn mowing schedules. Sarah's property, however, was unincorporated, free from the HOA's iron grip. Her deed was clear. Her land was hers alone, with no covenants or restrictions. She relished planting wildflowers, keeping chickens, and letting her grass grow a little too long for Karen's liking. But Karen, the HOA president with a penchant for control, had other ideas. It started with subtle jabs. Karen would drive by in her golf cart, clipboard in hand, glaring at Sarah's unkempt yard. "You know, your property brings down our home values," she'd call out, her voice dripping with condescension. Sarah would just smile and wave, refusing to take the bait. But Karen's disapproval escalated when she decided to beautify the neighborhood entrance, which happened to border Sarah's land. Without so much as a phone call, Karen hired a contractor to pour a massive concrete slab for a community welcome sign right across Sarah's property line. The slab, complete with tacky faux marble pillars, encroached a full 3 feet onto Sarah's land, covering her wildflower bed and part of her irrigation ditch. Sarah was livid. She stormed over to Karen's pristine McMansion, where Karen was holding court with her HOA minions on the front lawn. "You poured concrete on my property," Sarah shouted, holding up a copy of her survey map. Karen barely looked up from her iced tea. "Oh, Sarah, it's for the community. Our HOA voted to improve the entrance, and your land was the only logical spot. You should be grateful." Sarah's jaw dropped. "Grateful? I'm not in your HOA. You had no right." Karen smirked, adjusting her oversized sunglasses. "Well, maybe you should join us. Then you'd understand civic duty." The other HOA members nodded, avoiding Sarah's glare. The audacity was staggering, but Sarah wasn't one to back down. She'd dealt with bullies before back in her old apartment complex, where a landlord tried to evict her over a false noise complaint. She knew the key was evidence and persistence. First, she called a licensed surveyor to confirm the property line. The results were undeniable. The concrete slab was 3.2 feet over her boundary, and the survey stakes Karen's contractor claimed were moved by kids were exactly where they belonged. Armed with this, Sarah sent a certified letter to Karen and the HOA demanding they remove the slab within 14 days or face legal action. She cited Texas property law, which clearly stated that unauthorized construction on another's land constituted trespass and encroachment. Karen's response was a masterclass in deflection. She emailed back, claiming the HOA had an easement based on community precedent, and that Sarah was being unneighborly. She even hinted that Sarah's refusal to join the HOA made her liable for aesthetic damages to the neighborhood. Sarah couldn't believe the nerve. She dug deeper, contacting the county clerk's office to verify the HOA's authority. To her surprise, she uncovered a twist. The Willow Creek HOA wasn't even properly registered with the state. Its dedicatory instruments hadn't been filed with the county land records, rendering its rules legally questionable. This wasn't just Karen overstepping, it was a power grab by a fake HOA that had been bullying residents for years. Enter Mike, Sarah's friend from inside the HOA. He'd been quietly seething under Karen's reign, especially after she fined him $500 for painting his fence an unapproved shade of blue. Mike had overheard Karen bragging at an HOA meeting about how she'd handled Sarah's land issue by claiming an easement that didn't exist. He slipped Sarah a recording of the meeting, where Karen admitted to knowing the slab was on Sarah's property, but thought she'd get over it. This was the ammunition Sarah needed. She consulted a real estate attorney who confirmed that Karen's actions were not only illegal but could trigger significant penalties. The lawyer also revealed that the HOA's failure to register its covenants meant it had no legal standing to enforce rules, even on its own members. The confrontation came at the next HOA meeting, held in the community clubhouse. Sarah showed up uninvited, survey map, lawyer's letter, and Mike's recording in hand. The room fell silent as she took the floor. "Karen, you poured concrete on my land without permission, claiming your HOA gave you the right. But your HOA isn't even legal. You didn't file your covenants, and I'm not a member anyway. Remove that slab, or I'm suing you for trespass, damages, and every cent of your fake HOA's budget." She played the recording, and gasps rippled through the crowd as Karen's voice admitted to the intentional overstep. Mike stood up, adding, "She's been lying to us all, fining us for nothing while breaking the law herself." The room erupted. Other homeowners, fed up with Karen's tyranny, started sharing their own grievances, fines for minor infractions, unapproved rule changes, even threats of liens for unpaid dues. Karen's empire crumbled in real time. Her face turned crimson as she stammered, "This is a misunderstanding. We're just trying to keep the neighborhood nice." But the evidence was overwhelming. Sarah's attorney followed up with a formal cease and desist letter, and the HOA board, now terrified of a class action lawsuit from its own members, voted to remove Karen as president. The concrete slab was jackhammered out within a week, at the HOA's expense, and Sarah's wildflowers were restored by a landscaper paid from Karen's own pocket. The county launched an investigation into the HOA's unregistered status, and several board members resigned, leaving the organization in disarray. Karen, humiliated, put her house up for sale, unable to face the neighbors she'd lorded over. Sarah's victory wasn't just about her land, it was a rallying cry for every homeowner who'd felt the HOA's overreach. Mike and others began organizing to dissolve the fake HOA entirely, replacing it with a voluntary neighborhood council focused on cooperation, not control. Sarah's chickens clucked happily, her wildflowers bloomed, and her property line stood firm. She'd shown that standing up to a bully, armed with facts and resolve, could topple even the most entrenched power. As she sipped coffee on her porch, watching Karen's moving van pull away, Sarah felt a quiet triumph. She'd reclaimed her land and her peace, proving that no one, not even a self-styled HOA queen, could take what was rightfully hers. What do you think? Was Sarah right to go nuclear on Karen and the HOA, or should she have tried harder to negotiate? Share your thoughts on who was in the right and how you'd handle a neighbor crossing your property line.